He thought he could live like a human, until the monsters he once ruled came for the woman he loved. Get your popcorn ready because part 2 will make your heart race. The sun rose slowly over Seoul, spilling golden light across the floor of Rachel's small apartment. She hadn't slept. Not a second. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, those dark eyes that glowed faintly in the night, the cold but tender touch of his hand on her cheek, and the words that still echoed in her heart. You are my healing, Rachel. Her heart thumped just thinking about it. The vampire CEO, her boss, the man every woman in the company feared, had said she was his healing. But how? He was powerful, mysterious, dangerous, yet when he looked at her, it felt like she was the one who could hurt him. She sat up, running her fingers through her braided hair, mumbling to herself. Rachel, you just fell for a vampire. A whole vampire. Not a man with issues, a man with fangs. She paced across the room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Okay, maybe he's half vampire? Or vegan vampire, she whispered, trying to laugh, but her voice cracked. Her lips still tingled from his kiss. That kiss that made her knees weak and her heart race, but also left her feeling like her soul had been seen for the first time. And yet, deep down, something inside her whispered that he was fighting something darker, something he hadn't told her yet. Morning sunlight poured through the glass walls of Seoul Heights Corporation. The office buzzed like never before. Whispers, side glances, and half-smiles followed Rachel as she walked in. But something was different about her today. The same woman who used to keep her head low now strutted through the lobby in heels that echoed confidence. Her curly hair framed her glowing face, and the way she held her coffee cup screamed main character energy. Is that Rachel? One co-worker whispered. She's glowing. Like literally glowing, another replied, squinting suspiciously. Rachel ignored them all, adjusting her blazer with a smirk. Inside, her heart was racing. Flashes of last night kept playing in her head. The kiss. The power. The way he looked at her, like she was both danger and destiny. When she reached the CEO's door, she didn't even knock. She pushed it open like she owned the place. Lee Jae-sun looked up from his desk, his lips curling into that dangerous, soft smile. Miss Rachel, he said smoothly, voice dripping with calm authority. I see someone didn't forget last night. She froze, blinking fast. Forget what? I was just passing by. He stood, walking slowly toward her, eyes locked on hers. Passing by. Rachel cleared her throat, pretending to study a non-existent report. Maybe my feet have good taste. Lee chuckled. Deep, magnetic, almost too perfect. Then I guess your feet know where they belong. The air shifted, playful yet electric. Everyone outside the glass office peeked in, jaws dropped as the CEO smiled for the first time in years. And Rachel just smiled back, knowing something about her world had officially changed. Sit, he said simply. She blinked. You mean there? He nodded, that same teasing calm in his eyes. Yes, that's the CEO's chair. Yours, if you accept. Rachel froze, halfway between a laugh and disbelief. You're joking, right? He leaned closer across the desk. Do I look like I'm joking? Everything I wrote in that document, I meant it. I want you to take charge of this company, Rachel. Her lips parted in shock. Me? But I'm just... You're not just anything, he interrupted gently. You're the only one who ever made me feel human again. The room went silent, her heartbeat louder than her thoughts. She hesitated, then sat down slowly in his chair, the massive CEO seat that once symbolized power and distance. He smiled softly, almost proud. Looks good on you, he said. Rachel chuckled nervously. You're crazy, you know that? He leaned back, eyes glimmering. Then we're both crazy. Rachel sat in the CEO's chair, her hands shaking slightly. She looked at him and whispered, Lee, this is not funny. Before she could finish, he pressed a button on his desk phone. Call the staff to the conference room, he said in his usual cool voice. A few minutes later, everyone gathered. Mina stood at the front with her mouth slightly open, eyes moving between Rachel and Lee. The room was filled with whispers. Rachel's heart raced. He turned to her, then to everyone. From this day forward, he said, voice steady and powerful, Miss Rachel Adeyemi will take full leadership of this company. She is your new CEO. Gasps filled the room. Phones dropped. Mina's jaw nearly hit the floor. Someone stuttered, Sir, is this some kind of joke? But Lee's piercing eyes silenced everyone. No. She earned it. And anyone who questions her, questions me. He turned back to Rachel and smiled, that gentle, knowing smile that made her chest tighten. Rachel's hands trembled as she took a deep breath and faced the stunned crowd. She wasn't the poor assistant anymore. She was the boss. And as the cameras flashed, Lee Jae-sun leaned closer, whispering so only she could hear, Let them see your strength, Rachel. The world belongs to you now. She glanced up at him, having a mysterious look, and whispered back, And what about you? He smiled softly. I never left. The office had been buzzing ever since the announcement, but for Rachel, life had never felt more unreal. Yesterday, she was just a girl trying to pay rent. Now she was the CEO of his company. Every time she turned, Lee was there, quiet, observant, his eyes soft but still carrying that dark mystery that made her heart skip. He was still the powerful vampire CEO, but somehow gentler. That morning, as sunlight spilled through the glass walls of his office, Rachel noticed something unusual. Wait, you're standing in the sun, she said, half teasing, half worried. Lee glanced at her hand resting on the desk beside his. I realized something strange, he said softly. When you're near me, the light doesn't hurt. Rachel blinked, stunned. So, you're saying I'm your SPF 1000 or something? He chuckled, that deep, rare sound that made her cheeks warm. Maybe. Or maybe you're my cure. From that day, they started taking walks together, in daylight. At first, he wore sunglasses, cautious and unsure. But soon, he was laughing under the sun like a man rediscovering life. People whispered when they saw the cold CEO smiling, holding hands with his new boss, the bold African woman who'd somehow melted his darkness. For the first time in centuries, Lee felt alive. And Rachel. She finally understood. Some love stories weren't meant to drain you. They were meant to heal you. Days passed and the entire office still buzzed like a hive of confused bees. Every employee had the same question written on their faces. How did Rachel become the new CEO overnight? As Rachel walked into the glass building wearing her simple cream dress and confident smile, heads turned. The same colleagues who used to ignore her now suddenly greeted her like she was royalty. Phones buzzed, whispers floated through the hallway, and everyone suddenly wanted to congratulate her, mostly out of shock. Mina, the ever-curious receptionist, marched straight to Rachel's new office with her usual nosy grin. Boss Lady Rachel, she said dramatically, leaning on the doorframe. You have to tell me how you pulled this off. Yesterday you were taking coffee orders, and today they are serving you. Rachel chuckled, twirling the pen between her fingers. Mina, not everything in life needs an explanation, she said with a knowing smile. Some things are just fate. Mina's jaw dropped. Fate. Girl, don't give me that K-drama line. This is real life. Rachel laughed, brushing off the teasing. Then maybe real life is starting to look a bit like a K-drama, she said softly, glancing at the closed blinds, behind which she could feel Lee's energy watching her, protective yet calm. The whole day, she moved differently, graceful, confident, glowing. Even Lee noticed when she stepped into his office later, the light bouncing off her skin like she carried the sun itself. See? He said with a playful smirk. You were made for this. She rolled her eyes but smiled. And you were made to cause mere ale. Their laughter filled the room, a strange, beautiful mix of power, love, and something supernatural they were both learning to navigate. The city was quiet, and the only sound in Rachel's small apartment was the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the stack of documents on her desk, her new CEO responsibilities. Her mind kept replaying everything. Lee Jae-sun, the vampire, the way he made her feel safe, the way he smiled, and the way her life had changed overnight. A sudden noise at the window made her jump. "Who's there?" she whispered, her heart pounding. A shadow moved gracefully, almost silently. Rachel froze, and then she saw him. Lee Jae-sun, standing outside her window, his dark coat blending with the night, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. "You scared me," Rachel exclaimed, stepping back. He raised a hand in calm reassurance. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to make sure you're safe." Rachel blinked, unsure whether to be annoyed or relieved. "Safe? From what?" Lee's lips curved in that signature, soft, dangerous smile. "From yourself, and from anyone who might make your life harder than it already is." Rachel shook her head, a small laugh escaping her lips. "You're ridiculous. And why are you here, at this hour?" His eyes softened, and he stepped closer, his presence warm yet impossibly powerful. "Because soon you'll be leaving this place. Your old apartment. You'll move into your new one as the CEO. I wanted to make sure you're ready, and that no one tries to trouble you along the way." Rachel's heart raced, torn between frustration and affection. "You could have called," she said, half teasing, half breathless. He chuckled quietly, that low, intoxicating sound that always made her knees weak. "Where's the fun in that?" For a moment, the night felt suspended, the city fading into shadows and moonlight, and Rachel realized, once again, that her life had become impossibly magical. Lee tilted his head, eyes glinting mischievously. "Sleep now. Tomorrow, you start the next chapter of your life. And I'll be watching, just close enough to keep you safe." Rachel rolled her eyes, but couldn't hide her smile. "You're impossible," she whispered. "And you," he said softly, almost a whisper, "are my reason." The next morning, Rachel's small apartment felt smaller than ever as movers carried boxes and furniture out the door. Her mind buzzed with excitement and nerves. She had never imagined living like this. A new place, a new life, and suddenly, a new title. CEO. "Are you sure you can manage all this alone?" a mover asked, lifting a heavy box. Rachel gave a small laugh. "I think so. I have some help." She didn't need to say more. From the corner of her eye, she noticed a familiar shadow leaning casually against a tree outside. Lee Jae-sun, watching over her like a guardian in the sun. His dark coat contrasted sharply with the morning light, sunglasses hiding the usual glint in his eyes. Rachel rolled her eyes, half annoyed, half amused. "I swear, you follow me everywhere." Lee didn't answer immediately. He only moved a fraction closer, eyes scanning the street with a predator's precision. "Someone has to make sure my CEO survives her first day in her new home," he said calmly, voice low but teasing. Rachel snorted. "You're impossible." "Perhaps," he said, letting a small smile touch his lips. "But I care about your safety, and you." The movers bustled around, oblivious to the quiet tension between them. Rachel could feel it, the same magnetic pull she had felt the first time he kissed her. Dangerous, thrilling, impossible, yet comforting. Later, when the last box was carried in, Rachel stood in the center of the bright, empty apartment, imagining her new life. She glanced out the window. Lee was still there, like a dark sentinel in the sun, watching over her. She couldn't help but laugh softly. "I guess I'm never really alone, huh?" Lee's deep voice came from behind her before she could turn. "Never." For a moment, the world felt suspended. Just the two of them, a new apartment, and a life that was theirs to build together. The elevator doors opened, and Rachel stepped into her new apartment. Her younger sister has been discharged, and she clinging tightly to her arm. Boxes were stacked neatly around the living room, but the space felt alive for the first time, because her sister was smiling again. "I can't believe I'm home," her sister exclaimed, her weak voice bubbling with excitement. "And you did all this for me?" Rachel laughed softly, brushing a loose braid behind her shoulder. "Of course, silly. You're my family. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Her sister's eyes sparkled, a mixture of relief and pride. "I'm just glad everything is finally okay. And Rachel." "Yes." Rachel knelt to meet her sister's gaze. "You have that glow. You look like someone who just survived a K-drama episode," her sister giggled. Rachel chuckled. "I guess life's starting to feel a little magical, huh?" Then her sister's gaze darted toward the window. Her eyes lit up instantly. "Ah, Mr. Magician, you're here too." Rachel turned, and there he was, Lee Jae-sun, standing casually outside, dark coat flowing slightly in the breeze, side-swept hair catching the sunlight, and that calm, teasing smile she had come to love. "Someone's feeling better," Lee said softly, stepping inside with graceful ease. Her sister clapped her hands excitedly. "Thank you, Mr. Magician. You really helped me. I knew you were special." Rachel laughed softly. "Yes, he's my guardian angel," she teased, brushing her sister's hair back. Lee glanced at Rachel, his dark eyes glinting faintly. "And I plan to stay to make sure both of you remain safe and happy." Her sister looked him up and down, eyes wide. "Wow, you're tall and cool." Rachel rolled her eyes playfully. "Yes, tall, mysterious, and my secret protector. Don't forget that last part." Lee's lips curved into a teasing smile as he looked at them both. "And I intend to stay," he said softly, his tone calm yet full of promise. Laughter and warmth filled the apartment, and for the first time since the hospital, Rachel felt everything. Home, family, and the magic of new beginnings was finally right. The new apartment was alive with laughter. Rachel's younger sister sat cross-legged on the floor, her eyes sparkling with delight as Lee Jae-sun performed small magical tricks, stars floating in her palms, coins disappearing and reappearing, and even a tiny levitating cup of juice that made her squeal with excitement. Rachel leaned against the counter, long braids catching the afternoon sunlight, smiling softly. "You really know how to entertain a kid," she teased. Lee smirked, watching his sister-in-law's excitement. "It's my talent," he said, voice calm but warm. "And it's easier to control when you're around." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Control what?" He chuckled softly, brushing it off. "Nothing. Just enjoying the moment." For a while, it felt like normal life. Sunlight, laughter, magic, and a little family warmth. Lee even joked with the little sister, teaching her how to make tiny stars hover with her imagination, and Rachel caught herself laughing more than she had in months. But the moment of calm shattered suddenly. Lee froze mid-motion, the floating stars flickering. His dark eyes narrowed, and a faint crimson glow touched the edge of his pupils. He clenched his fists, moving to the balcony as if trying to hide the sudden change. Rachel noticed instantly. "Lee, what's wrong?" He turned, voice low and serious, almost unnatural. I just received a sign. Another vampire, nearby. And it's urgent." Rachel's heart sank. The playful, safe world they had built suddenly felt fragile. Her younger sister's laughter faded as she looked from Rachel to Lee, sensing the tension. Lee's gaze softened as he knelt to her sister's level. "Go inside, little one. Everything will be okay." Rachel stepped closer, brushing his arm. "Who is it? Is it dangerous?" He shook his head slightly, a mix of fear and frustration in his expression. "I don't know yet, but I have to check. Alone." Rachel swallowed hard, feeling the familiar pull of worry and trust. Then, just promise me you'll come back. Please. Lee's lips curved into a faint, reassuring smile, but his eyes held a dangerous glint. I always come back, he said softly. And just like that, the sunlight, laughter, and magic of their little world felt like it hung by a thread, waiting for the storm that was coming. Night covered soul like a secret. Lee Jae-sun stood on the rooftop of his company building, his eyes glowing faintly red as the cold wind brushed past his face. The peaceful warmth he had felt all day around Rachel was gone, replaced by a haunting pull deep inside his chest. Something was coming. Then he heard it. Soft footsteps behind him. A familiar chill filled the air. From the shadows, a woman stepped out, tall and pale, her eyes glimmering like silver under the moonlight. Her lips curved into a dangerous smile. Still pretending to be human, Lee Jae-sun? She asked in a low, taunting tone. You smell of her. Lee turned, his jaw tightening. Why are you here, Aaron? She walked closer, her black coat flowing like smoke. I was sent to warn you. The human girl, she's not what you think. She might be your destruction. Lee's eyes flared red, but not out of anger, out of fear. Rachel, he whispered. Aaron smirked. Yes, you think she makes you human, but she is your weakness. And in our world, weakness gets you killed. For a long moment, the wind howled between them. Then Aaron leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. End it, Lee, before it ends you. And just as suddenly as she appeared, she vanished into mist, leaving Lee alone on the rooftop, staring into the night, torn between love and the danger it carried. That night, Rachel slept restlessly that night. The moonlight glowed softly through her window, painting silver lines across her blanket. Her sister was sleeping peacefully beside her, but Rachel's heart was uneasy. Suddenly, she found herself standing in a misty forest. The air was cold, and strange whispers echoed all around. Ahead of her, she saw Lee Jae-sun, his dark coat moving with the wind, his eyes glowing faintly red like a warning light. He looked hurt. And someone or something stood in front of him, hidden in the fog. Lee! Rachel called, trying to reach him. He turned toward her, his face full of worry. Rachel, don't come closer, he shouted. But before she could move, she saw her sister standing behind him, reaching out for help. Rachel tried to run to her, but the ground beneath her feet began to fade like smoke. Lee! My sister! She cried. And then everything went black. Rachel jolted awake. Her breathing was fast. Her hands were shaking. She looked around her quiet room, heart still pounding. It was just a dream, she whispered, placing her hand over her chest. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just a dream. Something inside her heart told her that Lee was in trouble, and somehow she was connected to him. Rachel had barely calmed down from the dream when she heard a soft knock at her door. Her heart skipped. It was late, too late for visitors. She hesitated, then slowly opened the door. There he was, Lee Jae-sun, standing in the cool night breeze, his black coat fluttering slightly, his eyes calm but watchful. The city lights behind him painted his face in gold and silver hues. Jae-sun, she whispered, surprised. Are you okay? He gave a faint smile, stepping closer. I felt something, he said quietly. Something told me you weren't okay. Rachel's eyes softened. I had a dream, she murmured, voice trembling. You were in danger. And my sister, she was there too. It felt so real, Jae-sun. I was scared. He reached out, his hand hovering just close enough to comfort her without crossing the line. Don't be afraid, he said gently. I'm fine, and as long as I'm here, nothing will harm you. You have my word. The night grew still around them, as if the city itself was listening. Rachel nodded slowly, her heartbeat easing. Promise me, she whispered. He looked into her eyes, steady and sincere. I promise, I'll protect you, no matter what comes. And for the first time since her dream, Rachel believed him. The morning sunlight streamed softly through the curtains of Rachel's new apartment. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. She smiled faintly, thinking about Lee's words from last night. I'll protect you, no matter what. Her heart had never believed in promises like that before. But with him, everything felt real. As she sipped her coffee and checked her phone, a strange notification popped up. The sender's name was hidden, just a blank contact. Her chest tightened. Slowly, she clicked the message. Leave him if you love yourself. You don't know what he really is. The mug slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Her breath caught as the words burned into her mind. She looked around her empty apartment, feeling the chill crawl up her spine. Who could have sent it? How did they know about her and Lee? Her phone buzzed again. A second message. You can't save him, but you can save yourself. Tears welled up in her eyes. She wanted to believe this was just a cruel prank, but deep inside, fear whispered that it was something darker, something from his world. Rachel sank to her knees, clutching her phone tightly. The more she tried to breathe, the more her mind replayed the words Lee had said. Don't be scared. I'm here. But now, she wasn't sure if she should believe that, or run. Lee Jae-sun's eyes burned like ice as soon as he read the messages on Rachel's phone. Someone had dared threaten her, and his calm broke in a way Rachel had never seen. He found the trace, a distant echo in the city, a subtle scent on the night wind. It led him to an empty rooftop under a washed-out moon. Shadows moved like slow dancers. There, standing with a cold smile, was Erin. She turned, unbothered. You always come when trouble smells like you, she said lightly. Or when your pretty human makes noise. Lee stepped forward, the air around him tightening. You sent her those messages. Erin's smile narrowed. A friendly warning. I thought you'd listen. He closed the distance until the gap between them felt like a thin glass. Don't ever touch her life again, he said, voice low and final. The city lights below seemed to hush. Erin laughed, soft and sharp. And if I don't, what will you do, Lee? Show me your wrath. A shadow moved across his face. For a heartbeat, his eyes flashed red and the rooftop air dropped a few degrees. Every quiet thing, the hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves, seemed to pause. Lee's voice turned quieter, colder. You frightened her. You made her cry. You will never do that again. He leaned in close so she could see the steel under his words. Try me, and you will learn how very far I will go to protect what is mine. Erin's smile faltered. For the first time she did not answer. She stepped back, the smile gone, and melted into the shadows. Lee watched her go until she was only a memory on the wind. Then he turned and walked away. Not as the monster she feared, but as the man who had given his whole world away for one human heart. By the time he reached Rachel's door, the night had softened. He knocked once. When she opened, he took her hands, eyes warm and fierce. You were right to worry, he said softly. I promise, I won't let anyone frighten you again. She looked up at him, tears still fresh under her eyes, and put a trembling smile on. I know. He pulled her close, a quiet, unshakable promise folded into his arms. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall office windows. Seoul skyline glittered outside, but inside, the office buzzed with the usual energy of typing keyboards and ringing phones. Rachel walked in, her long braided hair bouncing with each step, carrying her usual calm confidence. As soon as she entered, all eyes subtly turned toward her. But this time, she didn't feel nervous. Not even a little. At the head of the office, Lee Jae-sun stood, leaning against his desk, dressed sharply as always. His eyes found hers immediately. and instead of the usual cool, distant demeanor, he smiled openly, walking toward her without hesitation. "Good morning," he said softly, taking her hand in his. His touch was firm, warm, like a silent promise of safety. Rachel's cheeks flushed, but she didn't pull away. He guided her a little closer, tilting her chin up gently to look into her eyes. The office seemed to fade around them. "I want everyone to know," Lee whispered, brushing her hair slightly back. "I'm yours, and you're safe with me." Before Rachel could respond, he leaned down, placing a soft kiss on her forehead, a tender gesture that made her heart skip. Some co-workers whispered, surprised by his public display, but Lee didn't care. He wanted Rachel to feel secure, loved, and protected, no matter who was watching. Rachel's lips curved into a small, shy smile. She squeezed his hand gently, letting the world melt away around them. For the first time, love wasn't something hidden anymore. It was alive, vibrant, and undeniable, filling the office with a quiet, magnetic energy that no one could ignore. The sun hung lazily over Seoul, bathing the streets in golden warmth. Rachel and Lee Jae-sun walked side by side, their fingers intertwined naturally. For once, there were no office walls, no shadows, no urgent messages, just the soft hum of the city around them. Lee glanced down at her hand in his, a rare, almost shy smile tugging at his lips. "I haven't felt this in years," he murmured. His voice was soft, almost reverent. "Walking under the sun, holding your hand like this, it feels peaceful, like I can finally breathe." Rachel looked up at him, surprised. "Peaceful? You've been so serious all the time." He chuckled softly, a sound that carried warmth she hadn't noticed before. "Most of the time, I have no choice. But with you, it's different. You make life feel lighter, like I can enjoy it, even for a little while." They walked in silence for a moment, letting the city noise fade into the background. Birds chirped, a gentle breeze tousled her long braided hair, and Lee's usual intensity softened. Rachel smiled, squeezing his hand gently. "I'm glad. I like seeing this side of you." He stopped briefly, turning to look at her, his dark eyes shimmering in the sunlight. "This is what I want," he said quietly. "Just this, us. No shadows, no monsters, just peace. And you." She laughed softly, leaning slightly against him. "Then let's enjoy it while it lasts." For the first time in years, Lee let himself simply be, feeling the warmth of the sun, the comfort of her hand, and the peace she unknowingly brought into his eternal life. Night had fallen over Seoul. The city lights twinkled, but inside Lee Jae-sun's apartment, the air was heavy with unease. Rachel and Lee had returned from their peaceful afternoon walk, carrying the warm glow of the sun in their hearts. But that glow quickly faded. Rachel's phone vibrated violently on the table. She picked it up, frowning. A message appeared, unknown sender. Her hands shook as she read it. "Leave him alone, or you will never see your little sister alive again." Her stomach dropped. Before she could speak, Lee's sharp eyes had already scanned the room, his body tense, every muscle coiled like a predator ready to strike. Rachel looked up at him, fear rising in her chest. "Lee, they've taken my sister." Lee's usual calm gave way to a dangerous intensity. His dark eyes glowed faintly red in the dim light, and the apartment seemed colder, quieter. He stepped close, gently taking her hands, grounding her with a protective strength she had come to rely on. "You stay here," he said firmly, his voice low and steady. "I will find her. No one touches what is mine. No one." Rachel swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "But they're threatening me, threatening her." Lee's jaw tightened. "I don't care who they are. I warned them once. If they think they can scare me, they'll see my wrath. I will not let anything happen to you or your sister." He gently kissed her forehead, a mix of reassurance and promise. Trust me. I will bring her back. And whoever did this will regret it. Rachel nodded, her fear mixing with awe. She had always known he was powerful, but tonight, his love became a shield, fierce and unbreakable. The night outside was quiet, but somewhere in the shadows, a threat lurked, and Lee Jae-sun was ready. The night air was thick with tension as Lee arrived at the old warehouse by the riverside. The air smelled of rust, dust, and something darker, the kind of silence that waited before a storm. His sharp senses could still feel Rachel's sister inside, her heartbeat faint but steady. He moved quietly, shadows shifting with every step. When he stepped through the broken door, 3 figures were already waiting. In the center of the room, the young girl sat tied to a chair, trembling. Across from her stood a tall vampire in a black coat, eyes glowing faintly red. "So," the leader said with a cruel smile, "the mighty Lee came running after all." Lee's jaw tightened. "Let her go," he said calmly. "You have no idea what you're doing." The vampire chuckled. "Oh, we know exactly what we're doing. You've forgotten who you are, Lee. Living among humans, pretending to be one of them. You think we'll let that continue?" Lee's hand twitched. The old instinct to strike flashed through him. But when he moved, his body betrayed him. His speed faltered. His vision blurred. A cold wave ran through him. His strength, the ancient power that once made him feared, was slipping away. The leader noticed. He tilted his head mockingly. "Ah," he said softly. "So it's true. You've grown weak. The human girl has drained you of what you are." Lee clenched his fists, trying to focus. "Weak or not," he said through his teeth, "I won't let you harm her." He lunged forward, but his movement was sluggish. One of the guards caught his arm and slammed him against a pillar. Another hit him from behind. The impact echoed through the hollow space. Rachel's sister cried out, "Please stop! Leave him alone!" The leader crouched beside Lee, his voice cold and cruel. "You have a choice," he said. "You can save her life, but you'll lose yours. Refuse, and she dies right here." Lee's breath came heavy. For a moment, he couldn't even lift his head. The weakness spread through him like ice. His power, his very nature, was fading faster than he could hold it. He tried to summon the force that once bent shadows to his will, but nothing came. Just the dull ache of exhaustion. He looked up slowly, eyes glowing faintly but dimmer than before. "If this is the price," he whispered, "then take me. But you will not touch her." Rachel couldn't sleep that night. She had been tossing and turning for hours, staring at the ceiling of her new apartment. Something in her chest felt wrong, heavy and cold. The silence around her was too deep, almost unnatural. Then suddenly, she heard it. A faint voice, low, strained, almost like a whisper in her head. "Rachel!" She sat up sharply, her heart pounding. It was his voice, Lee's voice, but it sounded pained, weak, desperate. "Lee?" she whispered, looking around the empty room. "Lee, where are you?" The connection grew stronger, echoing in her mind like a distant cry. And then, in that instant, she knew. Something terrible was happening. Without thinking, she grabbed her coat and rushed out into the night, guided only by instinct and the sound that seemed to pull her forward. Her feet carried her through narrow streets and into an old abandoned part of the city. Every step made her heartbeat louder, because she recognized this place. It was exactly like the one she had seen in her dream, the broken warehouse, the flickering streetlight, and the feeling of danger thick in the air. When she pushed open the rusted door, the scene before her froze her in place. Lee was on his knees, his body trembling, surrounded by 3 dark figures. And beside them, her sister, tied up and terrified. Her breath caught. The dream. "It's happening." "Lee!" she screamed, running forward, but one of the vampires blocked her way with a snarl. Lee looked up, his eyes dim but still burning faintly red. "Rachel, don't!" he shouted hoarsely. "Stay back!" The leader of the vampires turned, smirking at her. "Ah, the human girl," he said coldly. "You shouldn't have come. But I suppose love makes humans foolish." Lee tried to rise, but his body betrayed him. The power that once roared through his veins felt distant now, fading. His movements were slow, weak. Rachel's eyes widened as she watched him stagger. "Lee, what's happening to you?" she cried. The leader stepped closer, his grin widening. "He's losing what he is," he said. "Your love has made him weak. You've turned a predator into prey." Lee's hands shook as he tried to defend himself, but his strength was slipping fast. Each breath grew heavier. The once feared vampire was now struggling to stay on his feet. Still, he whispered fiercely, "You'll never touch her." But when he lunged forward, one of the vampires caught him and slammed him to the ground. Another kicked him hard, and Rachel screamed his name. The leader crouched beside him, eyes glowing. "You have a choice, Lee," he said darkly. "Save her and die, or walk away and she lives." Rachel's tears blurred her vision. She fell to her knees, shaking her head. "No, don't listen to him." Lee looked at her, and in that moment, she saw everything in his eyes. Love, fear, pain. "If this is what it takes," he whispered, his voice trembling, "then take me. But you will not harm her or her sister." Lee collapsed, barely conscious. Rachel rushed to him, holding his head in her lap. His skin was cold, his pulse faint. "Stay with me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Lee, don't leave me now." He tried to smile weakly. "You found me," he murmured, "even in the dark." Rachel's fear turned to something else, something powerful. Her heart pounded, her body glowed faintly, and before she knew it, a surge of energy exploded from within her. "Stop!" she screamed. The sound wasn't human. It was sharp, echoing, filled with light and fury. The air vibrated violently, and all three vampires screamed in pain, clutching their ears as a blinding wave of force blasted through the room. In seconds, they collapsed, unconscious. Lee stared, wide-eyed, barely able to stand. "Rachel, what did you just do?" Rachel was shaking, her breath fast and shallow. I don't know. I didn't mean to." He stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Your voice, it carries power," he whispered. She rushed to untie her sister, her hands trembling. "We have to go." Lee nodded, his expression unreadable. But even as she helped them leave, his thoughts spun in chaos. She looked down at her trembling hands. "I didn't even know I could do that." Later that night, when they were safe, Rachel fell asleep out of exhaustion. Lee sat beside her quietly, watching her face illuminated by the moonlight. He could still feel the energy from her scream, a power older than time, something that resonated deeply with his own dark magic. He whispered to himself, "She's not just my healing, she's something far greater." As the moonlight touched her face, Lee's red eyes softened, not with hunger, but with wonder and fear. "She's still human," he murmured, "but her soul, it's stronger than any power I've known." For the first time, the vampire who once lived in shadows felt peace and fear at the same time. Because now, he knew the truth. Rachel was human, but she was also his greatest weakness. As Lee stared at Rachel, confusion and awe filled his eyes. Who exactly was she? A mere human, or something far beyond his world? And if Rachel truly had powers that could bend the will of vampires, then someone out there would soon come looking for her. Because in the shadows, a darker force had already heard her scream. Thank you for watching, bestie. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think their love will survive this? And could she be the reason why Lee is losing his powers? Let's discuss in the comment. If you are new here, please tell us where you are watching from. We would love to know you. And if you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your kindness keeps us going. This is Afro Love Diaries, where every heartbeat tells a story.